Hey, it's another edition of Stairway to Seven, and as you can tell, I've been gone the last couple of weeks. I went on vacation the week the Steelers went to Philadelphia and got their asses handed to them by Philadelphia once again. I mean, I could rant about how bad they played. I could talk about everything that has gone wrong for the Steelers in the last 2 weeks because there has been a lot that has gone wrong for this team in the last couple of weeks. Uh, Losing to the Philadelphia Eagles again, that adding to the 60-year record they've had isn't one thing I could add. I could also add the fact that Chase Claypool is no longer with the Steelers because for some reason, apparently he's not part of their plan anymore, whatever plan the Steelers have right now. And the fact that everybody in the Pittsburgh area is celebrating this is a great thing. I mean, yeah, you get the Chicago Bears original second-round draft pick, but at what cost? Like, you took away another weapon for Kenny Pickett, and you're just adding fuel to the fire that you're literally trying to tank for the rest of the season. I could also go into the fact that Matt Canada still has a job here, even though common sense would tell you to get rid of him when he's clearly not doing his job. And the fact that the Colts and the Carolina Panthers were smart enough to get rid of the people that were problems there, and that here the Steelers are just chugging along. That's one thing. But I could go into that, but I decided not to do it. I was going to do an episode last week for the bye week, but I'm not going to do that. And this past week, it didn't get any better. Like, Frank Reich got fired on Monday. He's a Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator. And the Steelers could have brought him in, could have taken Matt Canada out. They didn't do it. They're still going to keep believing that Matt Canada's the real thing going forward, but they're obviously wrong. Not to mention the next day, that Steelers game that was supposed to be on Sunday Night Football, no longer happening in Sunday Night Football. It's going to be a late afternoon game. See the Chiefs embarrass the Chargers again, because that's what they're going to do. I mean, the Chiefs are a much better team than the Chargers are. That's going to be a blowout game. And then of course on Wednesday, Chris Boswell, he's going on IR, so Matthew Wright's coming in as the kicker now, which I guess that's okay because he kicked for the Steelers a long time, is in preseasons the last couple of years, and then the cornerback they traded for, the one that they wanted to get to in 2016, but the Bengals took him first, Wayne Jackson III. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's not debuting this week against the Saints. He's got a back injury, so that's another defensive weapon that the Steelers don't have coming in. And then hey, at least TJ Watt's coming back tomorrow, so that's good. But then the news comes that Minka Fitzpatrick is going to be out for a couple of weeks because of appendicitis. I mean, like, what do you even say to this? It's like everything that could possibly go wrong for the Steelers is going wrong this season. It's just like it never ends. And some of these are self-inflicting wounds on the Steelers themselves. And it's just like, it's like the universe wants them to just completely blow it up next year. I still have this really bad feeling that they're not giving Kenny Pickett a chance to succeed next year. Like, if they get the number one pick, they're picking one of those top quarterbacks that are coming into the draft next year. They're going to get somebody like C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young or who else is in there? I'm trying to think of who else is another quarterback in there. I would say Spencer Rattler, but I don't think he's doing pretty well. I don't think he's doing well. But you get what I mean. They're going to try to grab one of these top quarterbacks, and they're going to send Kenny Pickett off. It's going to be like Arizona in 2019 all over again. They get the first round pick, they get the first overall pick. So they say, "Bye, Josh Rosen. We didn't give you a chance to succeed. We're going to draft Kyler Murray because that's what our coach wants." And I just have that feeling that that's going to happen again if they end up getting the number one overall pick. But despite all of that, despite every reason why I should be scared of this team right now, here's the good news. One thing is TJ Watt is coming back. and he makes a difference on the defensive side. So he will make a difference, and the Steelers should win at least some games these next couple of weeks. One, because he's on there, and two, this is not a hard schedule going into the rest of the season. Like, there is still a really good chance that this team could make up for ground. Like, they could win. They could win these games. I mean, think about it. New Orleans is tomorrow. They're not a very good football team right now. The Cincinnati Bengals at Acrisure Stadium. That should be a game that the Steelers should be able to win, especially considering that Jamar Chase isn't playing right now. I know that Cincinnati beat the crap out of Carolina last week, but that's Carolina. Like, Carolina is one of those teams that is obviously not going to be good, but they can at least beat a team like Atlanta or Tampa Bay, which, I mean, Carolina is something else right now. We'll get to them in a second, but they got Indianapolis, which if Indianapolis didn't do all the stuff that they were doing right now, the Steelers would be one of the biggest jokes right now. I mean, come on, man. Jeff Saturday as your head coach. You hired a guy that's never been a head coach before in his life, and you did it because you didn't want to hire a real head coach. You just said, "Hey, Jeff, I know you're working at ESPN right now, but we just got rid of Frank Reich, so come on in, buddy. You clearly have an idea of what we need to do here." And it's just like, how do you know that? Like, it's just like that should be a game the Steelers should win. I mean, and then they go to Atlanta, which Atlanta is one of those teams where it's just like, what is Atlanta right now? Like, I know they have Kyle Pitts. I know Marcus Mariota is playing very well right now, but at the same time, there's nothing about that team that says that they're going to be a contender, except for the fact that the NFC South is just not a very good division right now. The toughest games they'll have will be against the Ravens, but the Steelers have been able to beat the Ravens in the past before, so one would hope that that's going to be, they could at least win one of those games. Then you got Carolina at Carolina, and then Christmas Eve against the Raiders for the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. That should be a game they should be able to win, and then they end the season at home against the Browns. So really, when you look at that schedule, I mean, they could still make it to 10 wins, 9 or 10 wins, and maybe even eke out a playoff run because, I mean, the Chargers are a good team right now, but they're not a consistent football team. So there's a chance that they may be pushed out. The possibilities are endless right now, but it's got to start tomorrow against New Orleans. This has to be a must-win game. If they don't win this game, then it's really not looking good for the rest of the season. Like, you're finally getting T.J. Watt back, and T.J. Watt will play a big difference maker compared to the last month and a half. I mean, there's no reason to believe that he wouldn't be. But at the same time, this season for the NFL has just been so ridiculous. Like, everyone's like, embrace the chaos, man. This is chaos. We gotta accept this for what it is. It's just like, no, there's no fun in watching teams that are much better than other teams losing the way they should. Like, everyone's like, embrace the chaos, man. Just accept the fact that that these teams are terrible. It's just like, screw that, man. It's just like, but I mean, the good news is for the Steelers is that the Saints are just as banged up, and they do not have a good team right now. Most of their defensive stars are out with injuries. They'll still have some guys like Cam Jordan still going to be out there. On the offensive front, you still got Alvin Kamara. You still got Chris Olave. Jarvis Landry, I think, is coming back tomorrow as well. But, like, they really need, if the Steelers are going to win this game, they need to take the same playbook that they took from the Ravens. They need to really do to what the Ravens did on Monday night to the Saints. They needed to use that on Sunday against the Saints, and get the running game going. You got to get Najee Harris going, get Jaylen Warren going. I'm curious to see how they're going to handle the wide receiver position now that Claypool's now in Chicago. You got George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and who's going to be that third guy? Like, they have Steven Sims, Miles Boykin, Gunnar Olszewski, Josh Malone from the practice squad. They could move up probably. It's just tough right now to see where this team is going to go from here, but I have to think that this team has got to be a lot better than they've been the first half of the season. Like for them, the season has to just start right now. Just pretend like the last half of the season didn't happen and start from scratch. You really have, let me think, 13th, 20th, 27th, 4th, 11th, 18th, 25th, 9 weeks. You've got 9 weeks to turn your season around, and your schedule is very favorable going forward. Like, there'll be some games that you'll lose to. I think they'll lose to one of the Ravens once. I don't think they'll lose to them twice. Cincinnati, I want to say they'll win that one, but it's tough to tell. Like, Joe Burrow right now is getting better and better after the rough start to the season, and the Bengals right now are deep up there at the top of the division. So, but in terms of this game tomorrow, I'm picking Pittsburgh to win. See, even as I say it, I know I'm going to be disappointed if they end up losing this game. But like I said, they've got to start winning games. It's got to start tomorrow. Like, if they don't win against the Saints tomorrow, their season's in serious jeopardy. Like, you've got to get the season back on track here, and it's got to start against a banged up New Orleans team, a not very well coached New Orleans team. Dennis Allen ain't Sean Payton, and Mike Tomlin's got to beat New Orleans once in his life. It's just a game that they've got to win. They've got to win that game tomorrow, and that's why I'm picking them to win, because it's desperation mode right now. It's kind of like what's happening with Green Bay. Like, Green Bay's got to beat Dallas tomorrow in order to keep their season afloat. That's why I picked them as well, and I'm going to show you the predictions for the rest of the games this weekend in just a second. But yeah, bottom line, I'm picking the Steelers to win this one because it's desperation mode. They've got to win this game to get their season back on track. They cannot lose this game. If they lose this game, it's almost certainly going to be over, and then Cincinnati can just come in the next week and then really just let it go. That could be the end right there. We could be seeing the end of the. We could be seeing the Steelers eliminated from playoff contention before they even take the field against Indianapolis on Monday Night Football in 2 weeks. That's how bad it is right now. So I'm saying they're gonna win tomorrow. I hope I'm right, but I haven't been picking the Steelers as of late because of how rough the schedule has been so far. But I have to think it's got to get better from here. There's no way it could possibly get any worse for them. But now watch me be completely wrong, and they're even worse than they were before. So that's what I think is going to happen tomorrow. Let's see what happens with the other games. Let's show you my predictions for the week. So I did make predictions for the last 2 weeks, and as you can see, not very good. Week 8 was the second worst I've done so far this year. Week 9 was a little bit better, but not by that much. In terms of this week, I did correctly predict the Panthers would win over the Falcons because, the way the Falcons beat them the last time 2 weeks ago, the Panthers had to get revenge at some point. I'm finally getting on the Seattle bandwagon. I'm picking them over Tampa Bay. The Bills over the Vikings. I still think the Bills win this one, but it's going to depend on whether or not Josh Allen will play tomorrow because he has that injury in his throwing arm. So that could change either way. I'm still going to pick them to win this one. I'm picking the Bears over the Lions. I'm picking the Broncos over the Titans. Even though Ryan Tannehill is going to play tomorrow, apparently, I think the Broncos are going to use that momentum they got in the Jaguars win 2 weeks ago. I think they're going to use that to their advantage. The Chiefs over the Jaguars, although could be a close game considering how Jacksonville played pretty well last week. It could go either way, but more than likely I'm going to pick the safe bet with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm picking the safe bet for the Dolphins to beat the Browns, Giants over the Texans, Steelers over the Saints, the Raiders over the Colts. Colts are just a clusterfuck right now. Packers over the Cowboys. I've got the Rams over the Cardinals. I want to pick the Cardinals, but that could be a sloppy game because apparently Matthew Stafford and Kyler Murray are not going to play tomorrow. They're going to wait. It's going to be a game-time decision, but the Rams are in desperation mode for a win. I've got the 49ers beating the Chargers, and then Philadelphia, they're just going to stay undefeated right now. Like, I'm going to be shocked if Washington finds a way to win against Philadelphia on Monday night, but those are my predictions for the week. Now let's go to the local broadcast.
It is guys beat the bus time. And Jerome, since we picked all 7 games the same last week, we knew we would be in the same position. Albie was the wild card, but off of the Sunday night game, we both finished 1 game ahead of him for the week. Tough week for all of us, really. But looking at the overall standings, it means we have a 2-game lead over Albie, but you and I are still all tied up. So let's get into it. This week's picks from Bet Rivers. Of course, we start the Saints coming into Pittsburgh on a short week, and after a 14-point loss to the Ravens, they are 2.5-point favorites coming into this one. Who do you like here?
Well, I like the home dog in this football game. I think the Steelers coming off a bye, they understand what they need to do to correct and be a better football team. And I think when you look at the Saints, they're a team that's really in disarray. They haven't been able to get it going offensively, defensively. Guys are beat up. You just saw in the last game, guys walking off the field one after another. So I just think this team is not the team of old, the Saints that we've known. So I think the Steelers have a really good opportunity to go to at home win a really good football game.
And the weather outside, the temperature might play a big factor in this one. This one where we all agree, Jerome, all 3 of us are going with the Steelers in this game. Moving to our
BetMGM Steelers Kickoff is presented by Chevrolet. Chevrolet, find new roads.
All right, welcome back. It's time for predictions. Rich, you're on first.
I'm going to be the bad guy again here. I don't think a bye week fixes all their problems. I think the offense struggles. I like the Saints 23-10.
All right, Charlie.
I'm going low scoring in this one, Bob. Steelers found a way to get it done. 16-13, Steelers win.
Jerry Dulac believes the same thing, low scoring 20-16. I think the Steelers will win too. They will respond 27-20 would be that final score.
We do have 3 seconds to the clock. Not that it matters at this point. If Pickett's is going to dump down, Cameron Jordan will get credit for that. And that'll take us to halftime with a tie score.
Well, they were up 10-0. Can you score more than 10 points this time around, please? Please? Well, the bad news is somebody scored only 10 points in the first half.
6 explosive plays,
but it
overall.
wasn't the Steelers. They're going to win this game.
Desperate for them. Coming off the bye week. And Mike Tomlin told us, man, has held the ball for
You actually did a good job today, Matt.
Minutes. Now, Cincinnati, which has played much better as of late. Who knows what the Colts are going to look like?
Really not a bad schedule going forward. They could actually make a run. The greatest play of all, victory formation.
Previously had struggled. A day of big plays for the Steelers, none for New Orleans. 2 huge interceptions in the fourth quarter by Pittsburgh's defense. They don't allow a point against this group in the second half. A season high in rushing for the Steelers, a season high in penalty for the Saints. First time with over...
Okay, so this is actually getting a couple of hours after the game had ended. Got caught up in that Minnesota-Buffalo game, which... Tell me right now the NFL is not going to try to make a Vikings-Bills Super Bowl happen after that game. I mean, people are going to want to see that rematch. The NFL knows that. I'm fully convinced they're going to try to force them to have that be the rematch in the Super Bowl. But that's that game. But it's like I said before, the Steelers were in desperation mode, and they did a pretty good job today. Like, if I have to compliment Matt Canada for something good that he did this week, that should tell you a whole lot. But wasn't perfect on it. It wasn't perfect. There's still some things that need to be worked out, but I'm glad that the Steelers did come out there and get that win, because they needed that win. They needed to win that game. They needed to win it. They needed to get the momentum back. They've got a fairly easy schedule going forward. You saw it in the clip I showed you, and I talked about it before. They've got a pretty good chance to run the table and at least get into the playoffs. I don't think they can win a division, because I think it'll be too close with Baltimore and Cincinnati up there. But there's still a chance that they can make the playoffs as probably the 7th seed. So things looking pretty good right now. The running game got going today. They had big runs all over. Kenny Pickett had probably his best day overall. Got a touchdown for a rushing touchdown. You saw the difference in the defense. When you put T.J. Watt in there, it made a much bigger difference than I think anybody expected it to. Even though they don't have Minkah Fitzpatrick for a couple of weeks now, which is going to be a huge loss. But hey, DeMonte KZ did pretty well in his first Steeler game. He got a pick from Dalton. Levi Walls got a pick. pretty good day overall. Pretty good day. Now, like I said, the optimism is still there. Like, there's still hope that they could turn the season around with the schedule that they have. It's not a hard schedule whatsoever. But one of their toughest games is going to be coming up next week against Cincinnati. Even though they don't have Jamar Chase, I mean, actually no, Jamar Chase was in that Carolina Panther game the last time they played. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I have to do some research. So yeah, Jamar Chase hasn't played since the Atlanta game. Atlanta was the last game. He didn't play against the Browns. He didn't play against the Panthers. But I mean, the Panthers game was the Bengals already put up 35 points in the first half before they even got to the second half. So they did pretty well without Jamar Chase, and I think that's going to be a tough task for the Steelers to handle next week. You got Joe Mixon, who had the 5 touchdowns in that game alone, both rushing and receiving. You also have a wide receiver core that has T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and the tight ends Hayden Hurst, and Joe Burrow too. Like, Joe Burrow can be a real menace down the field, and the Steelers have to be ready for that. And I think they will with T.J. Watt back in the lineup. But it's going to be a very good game in terms of how close it's going to be. It's going to be a very close game, and I think it's going to really. Like, I think the Steelers have a really good chance of having Cincinnati come into town and beating them and sweeping the series with them, because they already won the first game, the overtime win in week 1. I think they've got a pretty good chance to do it. It's going to be real close. I'm not expecting this to be a high-scoring game, but if the Steelers can do the same thing that they did today, take away some of the mistakes that they had today, because Kenny Pickett was pretty good for the most part. He had a couple of throws that were not very good, and there were a couple of plays that didn't work out so well. I think they've got a really good chance of winning that game next week, but it's going to be a tough one. So we'll delve into more of that next week. But until then, I'm going to enjoy this one. It's going to be nice to have a week without having to lambast people within the Steelers for not living up to their potential. And it's going to be nice to stop talking crap about Matt Canada for once in a while. Like, he actually did a pretty good job today, and here's hoping that continues on over the next couple of weeks. So, like I said, the Steelers have got a really good chance to turn the season around, especially with that win today. They needed this win. They got it. And the possibilities are endless now. So, pretty good week. Pretty good week ahead. We'll see how it turns out next week when they face the Bengals. And until then, I'll see you guys next week. Take care.